An invocation by Councilman Pizzillo. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Almighty Father, please look over this council as we begin to prepare to do the work of our citizens. Please provide us guidance so we make good decisions. In your name, amen.
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 Thank you. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Here.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Here.
Councilmember Loretano.
Here.
Councilmember Campbell. Here. Councilmember Gelzer.
Present.
Councilmember Stipp.
Present.
Mayor Lord.
Here.
All are present.
There are no expenditures tonight to ratify, and no communications. Is that correct?
Yes.
On the communications, thank you. And now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda item. Do we have any cards?
Yes, I do. The first one is Terry Woodmansey.
All right, fine. Let me just, while you're getting the speaker up here, I just want to remind the council that you will listen to the comments. You may take any of the following action. Number one, you can respond to criticism. Number two, you can request that staff investigate and report on the matter. And number three, you request that the matter be scheduled at a future date. And the speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The yellow light and buzzer will let you know you have 30 seconds left to speak. Before you begin, please speak and identify yourself clearly by stating your record, for the record, your name and your address.
Before I start, if I could ask for Elmo to be turned on. Can Elmo be turned on?
I think it's
Okay,
on now.
sorry.
There you go.
Oh, it's not going to show well. Oh, well. My name is Terry Woodmansey, and I'm from Buckeye, Arizona. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members, I'm here respectively because I believe you truly are not getting the complete and accurate information from your city management. You were given a DPS report, and the public's been given a DPS report, but that report is not 9 pages. That report is 530 pages. If you look at the item I have up, it shows multiple sections. Those are not 9 pages. The DPS report covers a lot of different things, but I want to talk about a little bit about what Mr. Fischbach has told the media and told the public on different occasions. One, he said that this was the worst thing he's seen when the Gallagher and Kennedy report came out. Two, he said that DPS was to do an investigation into the individuals identified for their misconduct in that Gallagher and Kennedy report. Within the DPS report, there's a letter to DPS clearly stating what the agenda is for that investigation. That is on page 269. I guess they turned Elmo off. When you read this, it says very clearly, a detective, not multiple individuals. It is very clearly written. When you read the DPS report, you will find that Interim Chief Bill Cousin did not draft or write this memo. He only signed it. He clearly states that Susan Petty wrote this memo. I have to question and ask, Susan is not part of the professional standards unit, nor is she an investigator or sworn officer. Is this not a confidential issue when a criminal investigation is being completed? The letter, when it refers to that, is a single detective. My question is, do they have probable cause to investigate everybody that they requested? That letter says one person. In the DPS report, it's made very clear that Bill Cousin, in fact, instructed Detective Leon to criminally investigate myself and John Rowan. This case has been going on for 3 years. Why did the city manager or city attorney wait 3 years to do any such investigation? What is the true factor behind that? The DPS report also clearly states, am I up? Is that yellow?
You're still okay.
that clearly states that there were no criminal misconduct by myself or John Rowan, yet he has been placed on administrative leave. I have to ask, why? Again, in this report, when you go to page 419, it clearly states that while this criminal investigation was going, Interim Chief Bill Couson had hired Jim Humphreys to do an investigation, an administrative investigation. That was May 2nd. John Rowan was placed on administrative leave the week of November 13th. I would like to know who ordered this investigation, if not Chief Couson, who authorized to pay Mr. Humphreys $85 an hour since May 2nd to do this investigation. Further, I want to know if Interim Chief Couson has been IA'd, if in fact...
I'm sorry, but your time is up.
Mayor Lord, I would like to give Ms. Woodmansee my 3 minutes.
I only have a few more statements.
Thank you.
Nancy McFillan gave her 3 minutes.
All right, so start the time now. Thank you.
Thank you. Interim Chief Couson has violated City Police Department Policy AP 115, Section 5, which clearly states, number 4, employees shall be informed of the existence of a criminal investigation within a reasonable time after the termination of the investigation if the matter is not referred to the prosecutor's office for criminal charges. This matter against John Rowan has not been referred. At no time, even today, has he been officially notified by Chief Couson. That is not a reasonable time. This report from DPS was completed in July. To date, they still have not notified him officially of their attempt to criminally charge him. In addition, Interim Chief Couson stated to the public at the recent meet and greet, and I quote him, "You need to send a very powerful message to the community that the person you have in charge of your police department is one of the highest ethical values and has the highest integrity. Not doing and following city policy is not high ethics and high integrity. Continuing to retaliate against employees who have come forward is not integrity." I have the following questions for council. Who ordered, from the table on my left, Couson to have John Rowan criminally investigated? Who authorized, from the table on my left, Jim Humphreys at $85 an hour of taxpayer money since May 2nd? Did you read these reports or just take the city manager or city attorney's word? And what if everything that's been said by myself or by John Rowan is actually the absolute truth? Have you done enough to look into this directly without taking their word and stop the continued misconduct? Thank you.
Any comments? I believe I'm going to turn this over at this point to our city attorney.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you're aware, many of these matters are currently pending litigation. It would be inappropriate to comment at this time.
All right, thank you very much.
The next speaker is Shay Pendleton.
Shay, I think that you're aware, Mrs. Pendleton, that the time frame is 3 minutes and how the light works. Are you aware of that?
I am.
Okay, and if you just state your name and address for me, please.
My name is Shay Pendleton. My address currently is 9703 West Kingman Street, and I do want to turn my 3 minutes over to Terry.
Madam Mayor, that's certainly your discretion, but that's procedurally, each speaker gets 3 minutes, but you certainly control the meeting on whether they concede time.
Is this the last of the meetings, council? Shall we? Yeah, I'm going to let you go ahead and finish.
And it'll only take me 2 sentences. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, after I spoke earlier, the city attorney stated that this is under litigation. The incident regarding John Rowan is not under litigation. The incident regarding Chief Couson is not under litigation. We request for the truth, and we request for those investigations. Thank you.
Would you like to respond to that?
Madam Mayor, that's a pending administrative review matter, and it's under consideration.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Next speaker, Julio Iglesias.
All right, thank you.
I have one more speaker card, Karen Keith and Karen Keith.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. My name is Karen Keith with La Creme Custom Events. I'm here on behalf of the Pebble Creek Car Club this evening. I would like to first invite a couple of our guests up front, and those are the kids from the YMCA Teen Action Council for a brief presentation. And I'd like to also introduce Charlie Miller, who's the president of the Pebble Creek Car Club.
Thank you very much. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members, we're very happy to be here tonight because, as everyone knows, we run the Pebble Creek Car Club Auto Fest once a year at the Goodyear Ballpark. And this year, as last year, we raised quite a bit of money for charities, but the YMCA Youth Leadership kids volunteer their time to help us out. I want to tell you, these kids are wonderful. I mean, we had them last year, we had them this year. We all talk about the next generation, but these kids are great. They come, they do their job, they ask for more to do, and we're thankful to have them. So the good news is we have a bigger donation for them this year. The Pebble Creek Car Club is happy to give them $2,200 this year for their efforts. Again, thank you so much for your help, and we hope to have you back next year. We already set the date for the car show next year, and we're going to help out the Aquafria Food Bank again.
All right.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie.
Gee, I wasn't criticized, so I can't give any comments on this.
I'm sorry, counsel, but unfortunately, this was not on the agenda item, so, all right. So you need to make phone calls later. All right, I'd like to ask the city clerk to read the consent agenda items A through C by title only, please.
Item A, approve draft minutes from a regular meeting and a special meeting held on November 14th, 2011. Item B, approve a request from Franklin Conley Jr. for a Series 09S liquor license number 090-70303S for Safeway Food and Drug number 1511 located at 14175 West Indian School Road, generally located at the southwest corner of Litchfield Road and Indian School Road. Item C, approve contract amendment 3 for CON-CX-0580-A311, which provides the city's all-inclusive solid waste recyclable materials collection service.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Does anyone on the council wish to remove an item?
Just a comment real quick on C. We appreciate being able to negotiate that and move that time frame for the waste management contract so we can have that discussion during the budget process. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Okay, could I have a motion, a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Stipp and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Osborne,
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell, Councilmember Gelzer,
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. So let's go to the first item on the agenda. Is authorize the submittal of a cdbg and one home grant application for FY 2012 and 2013. The resolution this is one we've withdrawn. The resolution will be withdrawn from consideration at this time, but Katie Wilkin will explain why. You've got the floor, Katie.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. Yes, tonight we were supposed to discuss the fiscal year 12-13 CDBG and home applications. However, we received notice very recently from Maricopa County staff that they have suspended the application cycle at this time. And that is due to some of the things going on with the federal budget. We're getting out of my area of expertise here, but the the budget subcommittee passed a minibus in November, which proposed significant cuts to CDBG and home, which would affect fiscal year 12-13 program funds. And county staff thought, due to this, it would be best to wait and see what happens when the full budget is actually adopted, and then they can move forward at that time with a little bit more information. However, we had already noticed for this public hearing tonight, so staff decided it was best to move forward with the public hearing. When we do these public hearings, we are required to give council and the public an update of what we've been doing with the CDBG and home funds, so that is what I'd like to focus on tonight. But I will let you know what staff was going to propose applying for, so we can get any comments from you now and then prepare for the next public hearing that we'll do once the application cycle is hopefully re-upped.
But I will open the public meeting. Public meeting open for public comments and presentation by Katie Wilkin.
Okay. For the benefit of the public, again, CDBG refers to the Community Development Block Grant Program, and HOME refers to the Home Investment Partnership Program. Both of these programs are intended to assist low and moderate income families, and they are administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The City of Goodyear participates through this program through the Maricopa County Urban County Program, which is a competitive grant process, and so that's why each year we submit grant applications for CDBG and home projects. This process is overseen by the Community Development Advisory Committee, and Councilmember Campbell is our representative on that committee, and Councilmember Stipp serves as our alternate representative. For the last 15 years, we've received over $2.6 million in CDBG funds for capital improvement type projects. And this has included water line replacement, the improvements done on Western Avenue, and we were awarded funds for park improvements. And I do want to give council a little update. The city was awarded funds to make improvements at Parc de Paz and Palmetier Park. And then kind of at the 11th hour, HUD came back and said they had an issue with our redevelopment area. We apply for CDBG, most of our CDBG funds for projects in our redevelopment area. We're working this issue out with HUD. It's kind of out of staff's hands at this point. We've asked for an update. County staff is doing everything they can to work with us. We're really hopeful we're going to get these funds released soon. We're very thankful to the residents of Northern Subdivision and Historic Goodyear for their patience. They've been waiting a long time for these improvements to be made, and we just feel so bad that this has been taking so long. But we are hopeful that that $257,000 that was awarded to the city will be released shortly, and we can get going with those projects. We did just finish a water line replacement project, though, this summer, and I do have some pictures of that for you. This was along Loma Linda Boulevard for the most part, and areas near there. And you can see these are some of the old water lines that were taken out of the ground, and you can see how deteriorated they are. And then those are some pictures of the brand new water lines that got put in. Along with that, some areas, such as the sidewalks that were deteriorated, were able to be replaced. And you can see there, that same sidewalk, brand new. And then a final stage of that was the asphalt was able to be repaved. So this is kind of what some of the streets look like beforehand. And then they got nice new blacktop, which the residents always appreciate. On the home side of things, the city's used $2.3 million in CDBG and home funds for housing rehabilitation. So we've rehabbed over 103 homes over the last 15 years. We just finished 4 homes in 2011, and we have another house underway. We were awarded $100,000 for fiscal year 11-12, and we're awaiting the release of those funds. We hope that'll happen any day now, and that'll allow us to do an additional 3 homes. And some of the homes that were done this year, this is the before picture. You can see even the yard is not in great shape, and then afterwards, new stucco, new yard, and it can really help the appearance of the entire neighborhood. This one, the roof was leaking and it kind of rotted through even the ceiling. They got a new roof and got that taken care of. This house, was a really great story. There was a little child who was in one of these front bedrooms with these windows, and these windows didn't meet safety standards. If there was a fire, an emergency, the child couldn't reach these windows to exit the building. And so they got brand new windows, and it's more than just the appearance. It actually adds a safety feature. So, again, getting to the fiscal year 12-13 application cycle. As I said, the application cycle has been suspended. In years past, we typically turn these in December, then CDAC reviews them in February and March and makes a recommendation. They go to the County Board of Supervisors in May, and then usually around September we get the funds. It's really up in the air right now. We don't know if the application cycle will be opened up again in the next 2 weeks or the next 2 months. We just don't have those details yet. What we were planning to apply for is on the housing rehabilitation side. We do have a waiting list right now, and the program has been successful, so we do recommend applying for $100,000 in home funds to continue this program. This does require a 25% match, so we would need to match $25,000 from general funds. But then that total project of $125,000 would allow us to rehab 3 to 4 homes. On the CDBG side, it's a little challenging. As I mentioned, that redevelopment issue we're dealing with the Parks project, that actually knocks out a lot of our projects. So we have very limited options for applications right now. However, we do have a project in our consolidated plan for solar panel installation. So we do recommend requesting $225,000 in CDBG funds. There's no match required for CDBG, but we do some in-kind matching, like waiving permit fees. And you can see here, a typical system costs about $20,000, and you can, for low moderate income, that can be difficult to make up the difference. APS offers about $4,000 in rebates, and so the CDBG program would make up the rest, $16,000. And that could reduce a low-income family's energy bill by 78 to 80%. That could be as much as $800 a year. So it can be significant, then that's money that goes back into the community. However, since the application cycle's been suspended, it's possible we'll get word from HUD about this redevelopment area, and we'll have more options for projects to choose from. But that does conclude my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Shall we close the public meeting first?
Unless there's someone in the audience that would like
Yes,
to
I was going to ask that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, before you. Right. Is there any citizens that would like to speak before us on this issue? No? With that, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now, there's certain discussion. Councilman Stipp?
Katie, if we had, if we were an entitlement city, would we have gotten our check already?
Thank you, Mayor, Lord, Councilmember Stipp. Are you referring to the Parks project?
No, the grant period right now that has been suspended. Did the entitlement communities already get their money, and it's just this end piece that's been suspended?
Thank you. It was Maricopa County staff's decision to suspend it, but this money isn't going to be made available to the entitlement communities till July 2012, so it's not available yet. And that the cuts that are being proposed by the feds are going to affect entitlement communities as well. Right now they're proposing, I think, about a 15% cut to CDBG. We're not sure if that's what it's going to be, and we're not sure how that might trickle down. They may say entitlements don't get the cut, but the state programs do get the cut. They may say the opposite. So it's kind of hard to answer that question because there's still so many what-ifs right now, but it likely would still affect us. I'm not sure how.
Right, but the entitlements at this point haven't been touched yet.
That's correct.
Okay. The other question is, in the event that this goes poorly on the federal side and they do cut the full 15% and Maricopa County goes through its changes in the way that they've been distributing money, are we in a position to accept the fact that there'll be no money in that next cycle or the cycle after that? Or do we have anything hanging over our head that is going to be half done without the rest of the money to come through?
Thank you, Councilmember. That's a great question. we can always find ways to use this money. Our citizens are in need just like any other, but from my understanding, one of our biggest priorities in the past years have been water line projects. And right now, the water lines that are still out there are in fairly good condition. They've still got some years left in them, so it's not as pressing as some of these first phases of water line we're doing. So we're at least for the next few years, we feel we're in a pretty good position. And there's nothing pressing that there's going to be, if we were not to get money for the next few years. Goodyear still should be in a good position, but as I said, we're still going to go fight for those dollars.
Thank you.
I did want
Councilman
to.
Campbell?
Thank you. I did want to just remind council that now that the ground rules have changed insofar as how the committee is going to be approving projects, it may be several years until Goodyear is eligible or to get any money from CBDG, because those of us that are now in the committee are not of the mindset that each community gets a little bit. We've more or less agreed in concept that when a project comes forward, it ought to be all funded and not half funded. The only thing I'm really worrying about is our parks money, and we're hopeful that we'll be successful. We can't promise. We do have a meeting December 14th, and at that meeting we'll be telling Sharon Saunders goodbye, who has been there 19 years or 21 years.
That's
A long time, and she actually knows this program like the back of her hand, and we'll meet the new person that's going to take over for her. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to move forward. I do want to tell you this is a very enjoyable committee. I have gotten to know other council members from all the other different cities, and we have the chemistry to make it work, and we're delighted.
Any other Councilman Gelser?
I have a question, and I'm not sure whether this is for Katie or for Councilman Campbell. Have we, with the most recent census, the 2010 census, have we not passed the threshold to become an entitlement city? And I guess my question is, should we try to become an entitlement city based on, so that we get something directly from the federal government, or should we remain in the county program? And I don't have an answer, and I don't have an axe to grind on this. This is more what's going to be the best for the city of Goodyear.
Okay, I've asked Katie to respond because she and I have had this conversation many times.
Thank you, council members. The city has been invited by HUD to become an entitlement community. However, we brought this issue before council, I believe, last year. Yes. And we found out from HUD that our allocation would be approximately $200,000. And when you take out administrative costs that we're allowed to take out, that would leave about $160,000 for projects. And there's also a lot of upstart costs. You have to do several plans and studies to get yourself into entitlement that cost a considerable amount of money. They can cost 50 to 100 grand to do. And so mostly because of that issue, council felt it was best to not accept entitlement status at that time. And so we signed a 3-year agreement with the county, and so we are locked in to work with the county's program for 3 years. That will expire July 2014, so probably 2013 we'll probably come back to council and have that discussion all over again, find out from HUD what would our allocation be now, and we can discuss that, and council can give staff direction on how to move forward.
Great, thank you. That totally answered the question.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yes,
I was just going to say it's a real shame. This has been, these two I never say it right, CDGB and the home funds have been really good for our city. And I would say that I think we need to keep on our radar in the next few years, if those water lines, the finishing product of this doesn't happen, we're going to have to keep that, within our budgets coming in the future years here. So just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Next item for the 2010-11 annual audit report completed by Henry and Horn for the City of Goodyear. Larry Lang will present. Mr. Lang?
Thank you, Mayor Lord, and good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm going to start with a couple of introductions tonight. Tonight we have a relatively new partner with Henry and Horn. She's been the audit manager on our engagement in the past, but she was promoted to partner this past year, and so I thought I'd congratulate her and embarrass her in front of all of you. But she'll be here for comments from the auditor, and that's Marilyn Mays. And also I want to acknowledge Teresa Sims, our controller, who's in the audience this evening. And that's because Teresa does the bulk of the work that goes into this audit. And so tonight I'm happy to present to you 200 pages of exciting reading, approximately 200. I rounded a little bit. This is our comprehensive annual financial report for the year ending June 30th in 2011. And I just want to make a couple of quick comments. Then I'm going to turn it over to Marilyn, who will make a couple quick comments. And then we'll take any questions that you might have. But first, I have to tell you that we had the opportunity to review this audit report with the audit committee. Members of the audit committee, Councilman Pizzillo, Vice Mayor Osborne, Councilman Gelser, and City Manager Fishbach. Vice Mayor Osborne was not able to attend the meeting. We tried very hard to get you in this year. You'll notice this is the first time since you've been on the committee that we actually were ready for the audit committee prior to Thanksgiving. That was one of our goals. Next year we're going to try to get it a little bit sooner. But as I told the audit committee when we met, this is the most efficient financial audit that we have had in the city of Goodyear. And the audit staff, as well as the accounting staff and the finance department, are to be commended for making that happen. They did an excellent job. The field work was completed in October. They used to take it back to the office and work there for a few weeks. Instead, they came the next week fully loaded. And in October, they were substantially completed with the audit and going through the review processes and so forth. So an exceptionally efficient audit and a job well done by all involved. With that, we were asked a couple of questions at the audit committee meeting that I think the city council would like the answers to. And that is how is our financial condition? The auditors give an opinion on our financial statements, and Marilyn will tell you that in a couple of minutes. There are financial statements. The auditors are saying that whether or not they agree with these being presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And they give us a very clean opinion. What do those financial statements tell you? Those financial statements tell you that the same information that we provided you in the audit, or in the budget process, the estimates for this year were pretty close to the estimate or to the actual numbers at the end of the fiscal year. That we are in the financial condition that we've been talking about, which is a solid financial condition. This is very consistent with the data also that was provided to the rating agencies in our recent refinancing that showed that we were able to sustain our bond ratings, which enabled us to do a refinancing, as you voted on a few weeks ago, that will save us $1 million in debt service over the next 3 years. And so all in all, our financial condition is where it has been. And it's, obviously we've gone through difficult times, but yet our balance sheet is very solid. The reserves that you had in place are still there and everything else. I can answer specific questions on that, but I'd rather first let Marilyn come up and talk about the audit report. And so with that, Marilyn.
Mayor and members of the council, thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure that I can really say anything more than what Larry has already said. The audit did go very smoothly, and I do commend your staff for that. We did start our audit in approximately June to do our preliminary work, and always before starting our preliminary work, we do meet with the audit committee. Shortly thereafter, then, we began our updating our understanding of the processes with the city finance and your accounting processes. Then in October, we actually came out here and started doing our field work and completed it. Then the following week, helped with the staff on getting this CAFR put together. We have issued our opinion, which is on page 1, and what the opinion is saying is that the statements that you see in front of you are materially correct. It is what we call an unqualified opinion, and that is a clean opinion from our standards. Then in the back of this report, you also see a couple of other reports that we've issued, and those reports are dealing with the internal controls over financial reporting and on your federal funds. And on those are also clean opinions, unqualified opinions, and we noted no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in internal controls or your federal awards. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Larry.
Okay, thank you, and here for any questions you may have. Otherwise, I recommend you accept the audit report.
All right, thank you. Are there any speaker cards concerning this? All right, with that, I'd like to ask for a motion, please, to receive the 2010-2011 annual audit report completed by Henry and Horn for the City of Goodyear.
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion by Councilwoman Loretano and a second by Councilman Campbell. Open for council discussion. Yes, Councilman Pizzillo.
Just real quick, I want to, as a member of the audit committee, I appreciate the questions we had up front coming in on some of the areas we asked you to take a look at, which you did. You got back to us in a reasonable period of time, and I appreciate that. And as a former employee, this thing seems to be coming in earlier and earlier, which is, I think a significant accomplishment as well, because there's a lot of different funds you have to take a look at, you have to verify. And again, just the one key things I know we had talked about before, and I think you're going to use it as an appendix. I really like to see fund balances, I guess an English term for the user that you're going to put in the exhibit that'll show and track our fund balances in each different, fund, so we can see how they're going up or down, and if there's any significant changes, why that. But I appreciate the efforts. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much, Ms. Mays. I've worked under you. I was on the committee for about 3 years, and I appreciate your diligent work and work well done. And Larry, thank you. All right. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Next agenda item.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The next items, there are 5 of them, and are for amendments and pre-annexation development agreements for Amber Meadows, Las Palmas, La Jolla Vista, Pradera. Is that how you pronounce it? Pradera? And La Privada. Joe Schmidt will present them together, and then the separate action will be taken on each resolution. So we're going to be doing each one of them separately, although he will do one presentation, okay?
Mayor and council members, good evening. As Mayor pointed out, I hope to do a brief presentation and cover 5 items at once.
That's a lot.
It's a mini consent agenda. Okay, let me start by giving you some background. As you already touched on, there's 5 resolutions on the agenda, and we'll be asking for you to approve the development agreements, which essentially ask for 2 additional years of time period in terms of an extension subject to certain terms and conditions that are outlined in the amendments, and I'll be touching on those here. The area that's affected, this is what we kind of refer to as the West Goodyear MOU area. Basically at the top of the map you have I-10 in the green, And at the bottom of the map, you have the Buckeye Canal, which is just south of MC 85. The major red line running north and south through the area is Cotton Lane, so that can give you kind of some orientation. And then west from Cotton Lane, you have Citrus running north and south, and then Perryville running north and south. So this is the area that was brought before the council back in about 2005 to work together to provide infrastructure to this particular area. At that time, there were 16 developments that agreed to participate in the West Goodyear MOU. And subsequent to that, we entered into development agreements with 15 agreements that covered 16 developments. So far, one development has complied with the agreement. In other words, they fulfilled the requirements of the agreement and moved forward. All the rest, 10 of the agreements that covered 11 developments expired. 4 are to expire in 2012 and 1 more in 2013. And extensions have been requested for 6 of the agreements that cover 7 developments. All of the development agreements had a 5-year sunset provision, which is what's triggering all this to occur at the present time. The development agreements, though, were executed over a series of 3 years, so they're coming up in staggered periods instead of all coming due at the same time. In kind of a nutshell, the obligations or commitments that were made under the development agreements and the MOU was that the city was going to fund and construct a 2 million gallon a day expansion to the 157th Street Avenue water reclamation facility. There was 2 fire stations to be constructed in the West Goodyear MOU area. There would be water wells, tanks, and treatment facilities for roughly a 2 million gallon a day supply of potable water. The city agreed to provide expedited processing of zoning and plats. The developers were, in exchange for providing prepayments, guaranteed a density bonus of 0.85 dwelling units per acre over the base, which in this area primarily was 2 units per acre, so it basically gave them a 2.85, although typically the densities that have come in have been more in the range of 3, and then so that was a 3.85. And then lastly, the city was to adopt a cost recovery resolution for water and sewer lines that would be installed by the developers, but then they would be able to recapture their costs as other developments tied onto those lines. And so the city did that. The developer commitments were that they would prepay $20 million at $3,400 a unit to fund the 2 million gallon expansion at the wastewater treatment plant. They would prepay $1 million at $170 per unit to fund a improvement to what was termed a bottleneck sewer line problem. They were to prepay $4.5 million at $738 a unit to fund 3 years of fire O&M costs. They were to prepay $3.8 million at $625 per unit to fund 1 fire EMT station, and they were to prepay $10.1 million at $1,800 per unit to fund water system improvements. They were also to prepay $250,000 to fund cost that the city would incur in administering the development agreements and the cost recovery resolutions. They would also fund and install regional water lines that were needed to serve West Goodyear. Those would be subject to cost recovery as other developments tied on. And they would also fund and install regional sewer lines that would be needed to serve the area, also subject to cost recovery. They also were to fund and conduct water and sewer studies that would provide the basis for creating the cost recovery resolutions for both the water and sewer, and they did that. And then they were to extinguish grandfathered irrigation water rights in favor of the city at the time the properties were developed, and they would be eligible for development fee credits for that. Then the housing market changed. So this is just an example of what our single-family permit numbers look like from 2004 to the present. And so right when we were executing all these agreements in 2005, 2006, 2007, that's when everything went downhill. So to summarize where we are today, the city essentially cannot afford to fund the expansion of the wastewater treatment facility. Can't afford to build a new fire station. We can't afford new water wells or tanks or treatment to serve the area. primarily because of the housing market crash and the decrease in valuations. The bonding capacity has been reduced. So what we had anticipated being able to do, we no longer can do. The infrastructure needs have changed. Since the water to serve the area is not going to come from the area that we anticipated, the water line sizing and location needs to be revisited to make sure that we can bring water in appropriate volume from other sites that we had not anticipated. Additionally, in the meantime, the city had completed the integrated water master plan, and in that, the sewer demand rate, it was determined, should be lower than it had been. So all the sewer lines and the capacity demands that were calculated in the sewer report are probably now overstated, and they need to be revisited and recalculated so that we can accurately assess what the demand would be placed on the plant by these developments, and that the line sizing is appropriate and correct. And then lastly, we need a new water source. As I indicated in the staff report, the site that was explored at Citrus and Lower Buckeye proved to be unacceptable in terms of water quality. So we would be looking further north within the planning area to see if we can find a well site that would be suitable. And the water update report that we are talking about, we'll be talking about, is intended to help explore that. At the same time, the developers can't afford to make the prepayments. There's the 5 that are approaching you tonight for the amendments are some of the last men standing, so to speak. A lot of the projects have gone through foreclosure and taking back and have been resold. So it's unlikely that they're going to move forward and afford to pay the prepayments that have been promised. The pace is slow, but we want to be ready. The developers know that they're not going to start turning dirt and building houses on some of these properties tomorrow, but they do know that, and they are confident, as we are optimistic, that this will turn around and development will start again, and we need to be ready for it when it occurs. These 5 developers are willing to fund the update studies. They're going to put the money forth at $47,000 to provide the information and analysis that we need to better assess what is needed in terms of water and sewer facilities for this area. And they're willing to withhold plats until a new development agreement is negotiated, so they won't move forward and exercise their rights under the agreement during this 2-year time period. So the deal points basically are that the city would agree to extend the development agreements for 2 years. And we would agree that if any of the other developers within the West Goodyear MOU approach us for a 2-year extension, that we would make best efforts to recover the proportionate share of those costs from any other developer and reimburse the proportionate share back to the original 5. The developers agree to fund and conduct the update study for the water and sewer systems in accordance with the scope of work that's attached to each of the development agreement amendments, and that is the cost of $47,000. And then they also agree to withhold recording of any approved plats unless a new development agreement is renegotiated. So the action that we're requesting of the council tonight is by separate motion to approve the 5 resolutions that are on the agenda, which would extend the development agreements for Amber Meadows, Los Palmas, La Jolla Vista, Pradera, and La Privada for 2 additional years, subject to the terms and conditions that are outlined in the amendments to the agreements. So that concludes my presentation. Representing the 5 developers that have items on the agenda tonight is Stephen Earle, and also here to be able to talk to the water and wastewater reports is Phil Miller. And I know that Mr. Earle would like an opportunity just to say a few words at the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any speaker cards concerning this?
I only have one from Stephen Earle.
All right. Now's the time. Mr. Earle, nice to see you again. It's been a while.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the council, for your record, my name is Stephen Earle. My address is 3101 North Central Avenue in Phoenix. I happen to be the attorney that represented the group of 16 5 years ago. We all suffered through a terrible recession that affected land, particularly in this area. The bottom line of this request is that this area still represents sort of the whole of the donut. There's infrastructure to the north and infrastructure to the south, but this area of West Goodyear simply doesn't have water and sewer facilities. The only way to do that is to figure out what we need and then sit down and work out a system to have that installed. What this agreement does is really extend the time for us to review for 2 years, and the developers put up the money to do that, and in fact we have funded the escrow before tonight and provided that information to Joe, as well as executed all the agreements and provided those to Joe. So we are ready to move forward with CVL, who did the original work, to have them do the work pursuant to city standards. Then when we're done, then we can sit down and figure out if there is in fact a way to create an infrastructure financing plan for this area. So we really are only extending the time frame in order to do this study, and no one is bound by the results.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the city clerk, please, to read the resolution 111462 by title only.
Adopt Resolution 11-1462, approving the First Amendment to Pre-Annexation Development Agreement for Amber Meadows with Pacific Capital Meadows, LLC, regarding infrastructure development for a 108.5-acre parcel generally located at the northeast corner of Perryville Road and West Harrison Street within the city of Goodyear, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Stipp and a second by Councilman Loretano. Open for discussion. Councilman Gelser?
Mr. Schmitz, could you elaborate on how the state legislature's program of new development fees will affect this MOU and development in this area in the future? Generally, not specifically, please.
Generally speaking, Mayor Lord, Councilman Gelser, generally speaking, I believe that the infrastructure that was to be funded by the development fees hasn't changed substantially. They'll have to, when we renegotiate it, we'll have to take that into consideration, but there was no promises to overfund the general government fee, which has been taken away, or the public works fee, which has been taken away. So those areas are parks. Those were not covered in the development agreements. So I don't see it having a significant impact on the terms that we would be renegotiating.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councilman Stipp?
On that note, that was a good tie-in, I guess. The fire development fees have changed under the new legislation. Isn't that not correct?
Mayor Lord, Councilman Stipp, they have changed a little bit in that they can't fund fire administration buildings and training facilities, I think. But I still believe it covers the construction and apparatus.
Okay. Now, in the development agreement presentation that you just gave to us, you had mentioned that the original development agreement outlined O&M costs for a fire station, et cetera. Does the new legislation affect that? That's question. That's A. B, whether it does or not, will it be in the new development agreement, or is that part of the negotiation piece that you're going to work out?
Mayor Lord, Councilman Stipp, do you want to bring that up? No. It's the fire O&M fees has been something that we have negotiated with developers. It's not specifically part of the impact fee, so I'm sure it would be a point of negotiation.
Okay, but it is separate from SB 1525.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions?
I had
Councilman
one question.
Campbell?
Thank you, Mayor. Joe, if we grant this extension, it'll only be for this property. What happens Is everyone else that in the 16, they're gone or they're out of business, or they just don't want to be part, they don't want to have an extension?
I can answer that,
Okay.
Mayor Lord, Councilor Campbell. There is one other developer who has made application but has not gone forward yet for an extension. I would anticipate seeing that one come back before you in relatively short order. There's another one that is expired but we have not had contact, and that may be going through reorganization. There's another one that we had expire, and it's still in business, but I don't know why they haven't responded. And then there's 5 more whose development agreements have not yet expired. So they don't have motivation to come forward yet. But if they do, then, as I had indicated earlier, we'd make our best efforts that they don't just ride the coattails of these 5, but that they pay their proportionate share of the study and then reimburse back to these developers who have offered to front the money.
Does our city notify those folks that the agreement has now lapsed?
Yes,
and
we do.
It is no longer in effect, so those folks cannot really develop the land now? They can't do anything to it?
Well, it does place their development rights in jeopardy.
Okay.
I'd like to just say that.
All right. And the group that wants to extend now, hopefully if the economy changes, they would like to develop. Thank you. We hope you do too.
Councilman Pizzillo?
Just a quick comment. I had a chance to talk to our city attorney prior to the meeting, so I feel comfortable with the extension.
On this side, any questions? Well, I don't really have a question, but I just have a statement. You know, it was pretty extraordinary back in 2005 when 16 agreements were made on this. That's very difficult to get that many developers together in concert. And it's disappointing to all of us that the economy dipped, because I think this would have been a great example to the other side of the valley of just how well our developers cooperate and collaborate in order for a common good to have a good development. So in that sense, I mourn the idea that we can't continue that, but this shows some commitment and makes me feel like some commitment means some progress. So thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, so now council is finished, so roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. We've already asked for the speaker card, so do we do each separate one on this? Just continue to go, or should I say that for technical
You can
reasons?
just ask for a motion,
Yes,
or ask her to read the resolution by title only. and
Okay,
just
that's all
continue
right.
the
All
point.
right,
You've
thanks.
asked for
Please,
comments.
City Clerk.
Adopt Resolution 11-1463, approving the Second Amendment to Pre-Annexation Development Agreement for Las Palmas with Keith Palm Canyon LLC and Rennie Realty Company regarding infrastructure development for a 273.3-acre parcel generally located east of Perryville Road, west of Citrus Road, south of Roosevelt Street, and north of Van Buren Street within the city of Goodyear, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. And I'm assuming no speaker cards.
No.
All right. Would anybody, okay, so at this moment, then we'll ask for a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
We had a motion by Councilman Gelzer and a second by Councilman Stipp.
Oh, Pizzillo.
Oh, Pizzillo.
No,
Sorry.
it was Stipp.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. You're welcome. My goodness. I know you really want to help me get through this. You hear my hesitation, and I know you get panicky a little bit, but we're going to make this. Okay, so now we're open for council discussion. Any more discussion? All right, roll call, please.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Oh, me? Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, so let's go on to the next one, please. And I'm going to assume there are no speaker cards and nobody wants to speak on this, so would the city clerk please read the resolution 11-1464 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 11-1464, approving the First Amendment to Pre-Annexation Development Agreement for La Jolla Vista with Citrus and Lower Buckeye LLC regarding infrastructure development for a 198.5-acre parcel generally located east of Citrus Road, south of West Durango Street, north of West Lower Buckeye Road, and east of 173rd Avenue within the city of Goodyear and providing for an effective date.
Thank you very much. Could I hear a motion, please?
So moved.
A second? I hear a motion by Councilman Pizzillo and a second by Councilwoman Campbell. Open for discussion? No discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, I'm going to assume there are no speaker cards again on this one, and so I'm going to ask the city clerk to read the resolution 11-1465 by title only.
Adopt Resolution 11-1465, approving the Second Amendment to Pre-Annexation Development Agreement for Perdera with Perdera Partners 160 LLC regarding infrastructure development for a 160-acre parcel generally located at the northwest corner of Citrus Road and Lower Buckeye Road within the city of Goodyear and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. Could I ask for a motion a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilwoman Loretano and a second by Councilman Stipp. Open for council discussion? No discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Gelzer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, now we're going on to G, and I'm going to assume again no speaker cards. So would the city clerk please read the resolutions for 11-1466 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 11-1466, approving the First Amendment to Pre-Annexation Development Agreement for La Privada with SBH La Privada LP regarding infrastructure development for a 198-acre parcel generally located at the southeast corner of Harrison Street alignment and Perryville Road and the northeast corner of Yuma Road and the 183rd alignment within the city of Goodyear and providing for an effective date.
Thank you. I would like to hear a motion and a second from the council, please.
So moved.
Second.
I hear a motion by Councilman Gelzer and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Open for council discussion? No discussion. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Stipp.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne.
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano.
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell.
Aye.
Councilmember Gelzer.
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
I think we got through all of those. Thank you very much. All right, now we're on to information items, so I'll start with council. And who would like to start this evening? No? All right. Councilwoman Loretano?
Okay, it's been a little busy, so I'll kind of go through it quick. Obviously, a lot of us attended the open house with the chief. I met with some Girl Scouts juniors who are 5th and 6th graders and kind of told them what city council does, and they were very impressed that we had so many women on the council and a woman mayor.
That's something
So
different.
they would like to come down sometime and watch a council meeting.
I think that's nice.
Attended the open house at the City of Glendale Glitters, and that was very nice. And attended the Estrella Christmas function up on Estrella, and also the home plate for the holidays. I will say Mike did an excellent job, and you look great with Santa, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I just have one question. Was there were huge crowds at the Glitters in Glendale?
It was very crowded there. It was packed, yeah.
Okay, all right. Next, who would like to? Vice Mayor?
I didn't. No.
He didn't bring you lists.
I
That's
didn't.
okay. That's all right. You
Let's
can
try
hand
to
it in.
look really quick.
That's all right. You
No,
can hand it
sorry.
in later. Councilman Stipp?
I attended the Glendale Glitters with Councilwoman Loretano, and what was really great about it, the event was it was designed for council members from across the West Valley to get together and meet one another on a social basis through that, and it was a great opportunity to meet some folks. We talked to a couple of the council members from Youngtown who had a very difficult decision the night before, and it was a good experience. So I think it was more than Glendale glitters. It was a good night.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councilman Campbell?
I'm only going to mention one.
You can mention more. When you're all afraid of it now, I know, because of what I said.
I am. I'm only going to say one because then you can say the rest.
Oh, no, you go ahead and say those.
Okay.
No.
Well, on Saturday morning, we went to Shop with a Cop here in this building, and we helped the Goodyear Police Department take 31 needy children shopping for Christmas, and it was just a wonderful experience, and the parents were so grateful, and the children were just full of joy that day. And I appreciate the mayor being there and Councilwoman Laurentano being there, and it was just wonderful. And the ladies from Pebble Creek that raised the money, I want to thank all of them for their hard work. And so that was Saturday morning, and then Saturday afternoon, the mayor and I and Vice Mayor Osborne went to the holiday reception hosted by General and Mrs. Harris out at Luke, and that was a very lovely affair, and gave us an opportunity to visit with other mayors and council members from the valley, as well as a lot of military folks, and we enjoyed that. And then we went to home for the holidays. I forgot what I did Friday, but I'm sure I was busy. So
I'm sure you were.
That's it.
Councilman Basillo.
No, just to follow up on Councilmember Campbell, is the home plate for the holidays. I was there with my son and my 4-year-old granddaughter, Sophia, and she just loved those bouncy things out there. So she got her money's worth in there. In fact, we almost had to pull her out to get her home. But it was cold, but it was great. Great turnout.
Great. And we sang.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Shall we sing again?
Yes, we did. We sang a couple songs, and the director was very pleased with the council, and we were all in tune. I think.
Quite that far.
Sure. Let's go with that, George.
I just mentioned a couple of things that the rest of you didn't attend. What was interesting, I just wanted to know, Scholler Arca Systems, they had a farewell lunch for the plant manager, Walter Hirsch. And if you remember, that was the plant manager that is German, and so if we're speaking the German, anyway, he's being transferred to just a horrible place, Paris. So anyway, we'll have a new manager.
From Goodyear?
And I really would like to get this name, but nobody could tell me how to pronounce it. Banakya Mohapatra. That's as close as I'm going to come, okay? I've also been working on a Westmec Exploratory Bond Committee, looking at possibly putting some of those technical schools out in this area. Something very interesting on the International Greater Phoenix Economic Council. I've been attending a number of events with ambassadors coming into town, and this last week was the ambassador from Korea. And what I found very interesting is that there's new trade agreements. They're going to be signed very soon, which are going to help the trade export-import, which in a sense could help us. And of course, I gave the cards about our wonderful city of Goodyear because, hey, we could have Korea here too. We've got all the other ones. We could add them to our international group. And other than that, I just want to thank staff for all the good work on all the events. Okay, City Manager, it's over to you.
Madam Mayor, I have no information this evening.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any summary? I want to speak up here. Be sure tonight, we had quite a few speaker cards tonight, and they asked pertinent questions, so I don't know how you plan on addressing that, but will that be addressed?
I will meet with the city attorney tomorrow and
Okay,
decide.
all right, thank you. I just wanted that publicly known that we are acknowledging that. Okay, anything else? Is that, yes?
I have a question.
Vice Mayor.
About our work sessions, I know at the last work session last week, you asked how was it all going, and did we have any other thoughts of sessions that we would like to discuss. You did mention one I was going to bring up, but you said in January we were supposed to discuss higher education initiatives. Okay, so that's one. But another one, either a work session or maybe even a yellow sheet. doesn't really matter, but I would sure be interested. We've had such great success with our economic development department. I'd kind of like to hear, what are their strategies? Who are they going after? What are the tools in our toolbox for the city of Goodyear? Because we've been using some of them to, the best that we can, but maybe there's some other thoughts that as a council we could think of putting out there as tools for that toolbox. But we really haven't talked about it or had an update.
Do we want to give our
while.
secrets away until it's publicly
maybe that's why it should be just a yellow paper. But we really haven't had any, real discussion.
Do we want to tell the other cities our great strategy until we've actually closed the deal? Think about that.
I know. Well, that's why I said it could be a yellow paper, but we really haven't had an update in a while.
Madam Mayor and
what our
Vice Mayor
strategies are.
Vice Mayor Osborne, that also is planned in January.
Oh, see how much you're on the ball.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
well, I think that's about it. Anything else? Okay, this meeting is adjourned.
I said 7:10. You said 7:10. Now you're calling 7:10. I don't know.